good evening. You are watching the Policy Times evening show, Unleashing India Global Web Summit Series.
So what I'll do today is just share a few stories, which were the experiences I've had. Both these stories are post being the BRO. The first one is related to Asian Highway 48, which runs from the Bhutan border to Bangladesh. This is a project which I was looking after as the authority engineer. And we found that the project was not progressing at all. So I went for a visit to the project and asked the project manager as to what is the reason it is so slow? Why isn't work going? We've tried to do so much for it. The guy we were at a bridge site, and almost in tears he says, I'm ready to start work, but this is the first time in my life it has happened that I don't have money to buy a bag of cement. So I said, where is all that money gone? We've been trying to get you as much funds as possible, getting your payments and all this thing. He says, but every money that comes is going to the bankers and not coming back to us. Now, why was this happening? The company was Punj Lloyd. I'll take the name. They had already been, they had defaulted on payments of interest, and the bankers had taken them to what you call your NCLT, National Company of Law Tribunal. And the State Bank of India, which was the largest lender, had placed an RP, as they call it, a resolution professional, who was looking after the funds. So obviously what was happening was every time we paid an invoice of theirs, it was going to the bank and it was not coming back to the project. So I asked him, what do we do? So he says, why don't you speak to the bankers? Now, that was not my role at all. But then seeing the desperate state, I said, let me talk to the bankers. So I rang up the higher management in Punj Lloyd, and they said, we've got the RP visiting us tomorrow. Why don't you also come? So I went and attended that meeting. And so there was the RP in front of me and I was facing him. And he said, General Saab, what do you have to say? I said, I have very little to say. All I have to say is your project is going behind schedule. And if it doesn't progress, I will have to slap penalty on you. The penalty is 0.05% per day. So for a 666 crore project, it was working to about 30 to 35 lakhs per day, subject to a maximum of 10%, which is 66 crores. The next is that the moment I slap this penalty, you'll find the authorities will be looking at your bank guarantees. They'll be looking at the retention money. That totals up to about 70 crores. So now the bankers looked a little worried. They said, General Saab, do you think these will encash the bank guarantees? I said, they will, unless they are stupid. Now that got them thinking. I said, there's one more thing you have to worry about. These guys are sitting idle for the last 3 months. You know how much it costs every month for just idling and all the things they have there, their workshop and this, it costs them almost a crore and a half. I wonder who's paying it. Is Punj Lloyd going to pay it, or is the State Bank of India going to pay it? But in all these laws, one person who definitely loses, I know, it is the common man, because his infrastructure is not coming up despite all this. Of course, you wouldn't care for him. You're from Bombay and they're from Bengal. So let's not talk of that. The common man is not important. Let's talk of the other things. I was being a little sarcastic there, but this was exactly the time I spent with them, 2 minutes. And I said, thank you. 2 days later, they released 5 crores. In the next 4 months, they released 20 crores. And the project was completed. This happened in June, and the project was completed by November 2019. and all the invoices they put in total to 35 crores, which means the bank made a neat 15 crores. It's a very simple thing. Unless cash flows, you can't make money. There is no way you can collect money by just holding on to cash. And when I interacted with Punj Lloyd just today saying, I'm taking your company's name, they said, "Sir, it's a nice story, you must tell it." They said, this resolution professional, the RP, has started using the same terms with their other projects. And today they're seeing the closing of many of their projects. And I think even the bank is seeing their money coming back. It's a very simple, basic thing which people tend to forget. Even bankers tend to forget. Unless cash flows, cash cannot grow. And I think if you forget such simple terms, there is no future for growth in the country. Related to this is decisions, timely decisions. When I was young and in the army, I used to take pride in quick decisions. We had the concept of a quick attack, and the moment you saw fire coming from somewhere, within half an hour you launched an attack and dislodged them. That was a quick attack, and quick decisions were important. As you grow, you realize that quick decisions is not required. You require timely decisions. Use all the time you have for the decision, but don't give the decision a day late. A decision given late is as good as a decision not given. Why I'm saying this is the attitude towards decision making sometimes I feel has been a little casual. If a government official, having been in the government, I say this now, if a government official delays a decision, who pays the price? No finance person puts a cost to it. So actually delaying government decisions is at no cost is what people visualize. But the moment you start costing these delays, you find there's a huge national loss. On small projects, you see this happening. A project is delayed by 6 months, then it's because of a delay of a decision, so you don't penalize even the contractor, and then you compromise saying it was partly yours, partly mine. The project finishes after 1 year late, and nobody is blamed for it because the decision-making process was also slow. It's time we started actually putting value to these delays in decisions. And if cash flow is stopped, someone has to be penalized for it. Somebody has to be accountable for it. Unfortunately, all the contracts, as I've seen it, are a little loaded towards the authority, towards the client. And so it becomes very easy for them to stop these things. So a little bit of looking from that side, and you'll find the whole system will move much faster. And when we have grown so much, and when we are looking at growing so much more, I think this is an aspect that we should be focusing on. So this was one experience with one story. The other is about new technology. Everybody says we should use new technology, but it's not in pieces. We have to look for gaps. And one such gap, which I would like to talk about, I'll switch to a few slides I've made just to make it interesting.
Yeah.
Are you able to see the slide?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
We're talking of new generation modular bridges, and the story I'm telling you is set in the Kedarnath, beautiful Kedarnath Valley. The Yatra route is NH7 up to Gaurikund here, after which it's a 14-meter trek to the shrine. And my story is about this bridge here at Sonprayag on the confluence of Son Ganga and the Mandakini River, which had faced those devastating floods in June 2013. So this is the bridge, the third bridge. It is 60 meters span, double lane, permanent, launched in March 2016. Floods in 2013, it was launched in 2016, and it's the third bridge. What about the first and second? Why 3 years gap? I'll just explain that now. Now, after the floods, this was the scene. The first bridge had been washed away. It was a 60-meter bridge, and even the gap, which was 60 meters, has reduced to almost 30 meters now. But this is a bogus gap because all this is landfill and it can get washed away anytime. And the bridge that they made was this 33-meter bridge. It can take a maximum load of 12 tons. It's 4.2 meters, which means it is single lane. And this was built in September 2013, just after the floods. So why did they stick to this bridge? Because this Bailey Bridge was the only equipment available in the country at that time for an emergency. So what happened to this? In 2015, when we were there, actually in April 2015, when we saw all these places and they asked for suggestions of changes, we told them this bridge is not safe. We gave it to them in writing and we said it needs a change. In June, this is what happened. There was a second flood and you can see all this fill just disappeared. If the bridge is stuck at this end, it's because after we told them, they chained it at one end, so they could at least retrieve the bridge. But this is what happened to a bridge which is too small, which is too light, and which is the only bridge we had. So what we suggested to them was to make a bridge here. You can see at much higher ground, giving a 10-meter clearance, and we constructed a bridge which is 60 meters. And this bridge was launched in just 1 month. But this bridge had to be imported. Why imported? Because we didn't have anything better here. And we got the NHAI officials to come and witness the launch. They were quite impressed by it. So what I'm saying is that for a long time, we have been stuck with the Bailey Bridge as the only bridge in emergencies. If you go to Google and just type collapsed Bailey bridges, this is what comes up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you look at the tabs very carefully, it says Himachal Pradesh, Uttarkashi. Rohtang Tunnel is also mentioned in dispatches. We lost a bridge there also. Mizoram, Kolkata. It is a universal problem. And these are going on collapsing faster because the axle loads are increasing and everyone wants to take his sand truck, go to the other side and start constructing, and the bridge collapses. And what we do is we lock him up in jail because he used a heavy truck. We don't blame ourselves for giving him a weak bridge. The world has moved on to 2G bridges. If I call the Bailey Bridge the first, now what you saw launched was a 2G bridge. It's a gap in national capability for quicker bridge response. This clearly exists today. We have almost 500 of these Bailey bridges along the LAC today, blocking our troops even from reaching the LAC because we had nothing else and we wanted quick bridges. In case we had bridges like the Acro with us, there would be better response to emergencies. You won't launch weak bridges, you'd launch strong bridges that will remain for days. You could construct detours which could take heavier loads. You could upgrade the capacity of hill roads because they are full of these weak bridges today. Quicker construction, new bridges, upgrades. In a city, if you had to replace a bridge and it took you 2 years, just imagine what happens to traffic. If it was an ROB, imagine what happens to the rail traffic. And there are so many such bridges starting from Bombay, which are 100 years old, which need to be replaced. The difference between a conventional bridge launch, which takes 18 months, and this bridge, which takes 3 months or 2 months, is huge. And that is what people have to look at without looking at costs. As far as the cost of the bridge, which was launched in Sonprayag, it was launched so that it meets the Yatra in time. The yatra took place on time, and the commercial gains were much, much more than the entire cost of the bridge. Now, this is a frame of mind that has to come. So we have to quickly graduate to 2G bridges, import if we have to, but along with that, develop the next generation bridge. And the 3G bridge should be something which is made in India, which we show others. But first, we have to understand the problem that there is a gap. Now, this is just one example of introducing a how do I stop the share? I don't need any more slides. So these were two aspects. We have to learn to manage our funds smoothly and better, and we have to look at the basics. And when we look at new technology, we should not be looking at single pieces of equipment coming in, but we should be identifying areas, and I have just suggested one. There would be many, many such more, and I'm sure many would come out with more ideas. I'll pause here, and if there's something else, I'll take it on in questions.
Okay.
Sir, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What is that technology limitation which is stopping us from the 2G or 3G bridges being made in India? I see a big opportunity from your talk that this is a new area to be explored and exploited. What is it in terms of technology?
We don't know that this area exists. As simple as that.
But nothing to do with fabrication, applied mechanics, material, because I think we are rich enough.
It is not rocket science.
Wonderful.
What people have done is the same Bailey Bridge has been made a little stronger. The Bailey Bridge is a beautiful bridge. People say that the Second World War was won thanks to the engineers, thanks to the Bailey Bridge, because we went across many places where people didn't imagine they could go. But then that has now its limitations, that it can take 12 tons. The moment you go to 30 meters, it can take only 18 tons. That's nothing. 18 tons is less than a sand truck today. It comes to 20, 25 tons. So these bridges are collapsing. These bridges abroad, 30 years back, they got the same bridge, made it bigger, made it wider, and started using it. One reason why it is not coming in is because I had taken this up as the BRO. And I had almost threatened the people who manufacture these Bailey bridges here, saying that if you don't go to the next generation, we won't call you an emergency bridge anymore because you're not meeting our requirements. So they started doing something. But what they've done in 10 years is not even equal to what is already happening abroad.
Good.
We can't keep playing catch up on these things. We have to start using the best and then make something better. So the concept of approaching it has been a little laid back, but the main reason is nobody's questioned it. Nobody's questioning the fact that on 2-lane, double-lane highways in the mountains, we've got single-lane bridges, which means we are utilizing that highway to half the capacity. Who's losing because of it? Most are quite confused as to whom to raise the issue with. So I'm making an attempt at getting awareness, and I'm glad that it has registered with these few slides.
No, this is phenomenal. This is something very, very encouraging. And what is the cost difference between a PSC bridge and this if we don't take timelines into consideration? I'm thinking from the point of view of these bridges being made as a standard, because you cut down on time, you immediately create an infrastructure and make things move. So what is the usual per meter cost?
There are a few factors that come in. Every bridge is efficient at a certain span, at a certain length. So these bridges, I would say, in the 40 to 60 meter spans.
Okay.
They would get competitive between 40 to 60 meters.
So invariably, All the track crossings for national highways, this can be very effective.
All the
Railway track crossings on national highways, new national highways being built, which get terribly delayed in crossing the railway portion.
yes,
These can span them in 3 months, 2 months with less block timings. They can be very effective in creating very beautiful infrastructure across the country.
they can be.
So I think that is a great opportunity.
They can be.
Okay.
And I am talking to some, but a little leverage is required because most people think that something new like this cannot come and won't come. That is the attitude one has to fight against. Then others say, why import it? Why can't we make it? I
Right.
said, of course we can make it. You start making it, it will come up in 3 to 5 years. But are you going to wait for 5 years to make a bridge in India? No one is going to take up manufacture till he's assured of a market.
Absolutely. That is what is most crucial.
So the day we get 4 or 5 bridges and make them, and people realize there's a market, every guy who can weld will make this bridge.
Absolutely.